I recently set up a Shopify website and initially it didn't quite go to plan. Well, that didn't go to plan. But it's up and running now, and I thought I would make a video this week on what I learned in the process of setting up that website, in the hopes that it might help some of you too in the future. Okay, so let's dive straight in. It won't be a surprise to any regular viewers here that the first thing that I learned was not to try and do it all in one go. I vastly underestimated how long it would take to set that thing up, and here's why. So when you set up a Shopify site, you essentially have to pick a template. And I just assumed in my head that it would be a lot like, I don't know if you're familiar with MailChimp, but it would be a lot like just picking field boxes or image boxes and just dragging and dropping them and bish bash bosh. It kind of is like that. It's also kind of not. For example, I have an image and some text on my homepage that links to a particular product. That was nice and easy to set up, and it was very much like grab this box, stick it on there, bish bash bosh. However, in order to link that to the product, I had already had to do a lot of work in the background, building up the product page and what have you. So in order to do that one job, I already had to do another job before I could do that job. And that was a recurring theme with anything that I was doing on the site. As another example, and we'll take MailChimp again, before I could add my mailing list sign-up page to the site, I then had to go into MailChimp and build it, because I had one built with a URL, but I didn't have the code. Yeah, you get my point. I had to go to MailChimp, do a job before I could go back to Shopify and do the job that I wanted to do. And that's the thing that I didn't take into consideration. There are usually a lot of things that you have to do before you can do the thing that is on your list. Doing the work itself wasn't too hard. It was pretty straightforward, but there was a lot of reverse engineering to be done before I could get there. So yes, I wish I'd realized just how long just each job would take. How much reverse engineering is involved, how much logging into other things is involved, and also, this is probably just a me problem, but having to remember the login details for various things. I spent a good chunk of my time trying to remember my passwords. Royal Mail, Click and Drop, MailChimp, it was a lot. So that's my first takeaway from the whole process, is that it will take a lot longer than you think, or certainly it took a lot longer than I thought, and that any one job will have a whole list of mini jobs that go with it. And that list will continuously evolve. Continuously. Your to-do list will basically become a living, breathing thing. The second takeaway that I personally took away was that less is more. I think if I had tried to get the website perfect from the start, I would have gotten too overwhelmed, and I think I would have quit, to be brutally honest. Once I realised that the best way to approach the problem would be to remove all of the bells and whistles that the template came with, start with a completely blank canvas and just focus on the foundation blocks, if you will. I can add the bells and whistles later. Once I realised that that was the best approach for me, progress started to be made. But at the beginning, when I thought I had to get it perfect, and you know how I feel about that, it just made me not want to do the thing at all. And I think that's probably one of the biggest problems that people have. It feels too big, too scary, and so we don't do anything. So less is more. Done is better than perfect, etc., etc. Going back to that list that I mentioned, the to-do list, the foundation blocks that I wanted, like the bare bones of the website that I wanted. I don't want to underplay the importance of that list, because that really helped keep me focused and moving forward, because anytime I got distracted with other things, and there are so many other things, I was able to bring it back and just focus on this list. And I just told myself, these things need to be done first. These are the foundation blocks. Once these are done, then I can get distracted with all of the things, but these first, and only these things first. Unless something comes up that you've forgotten that is also a foundation block, like a necessity for a website, like privacy policies or the terms of service. Those things were already on my list, but had I forgotten one of them and then become aware of it later, that would have been added. One of the things that the template that I chose had on it was the ability to add a video to the homepage, which is nice, and I might add that in the future, but it's not a necessity. So that got removed immediately. You might think a banner's not important. I did, because I wanted to make sure that people knew as soon as they jumped onto the website that they were in the right place, and I needed to add some kind of branding to do that. I wasn't going to spend too much time on it, but just adding the banner itself, I think, was just an instinctive visual. It's okay, you're not being scammed, you're in the right place. I've said before, but I essentially just wanted it to be clean, professional looking, and I wanted it to work. So, you know, payment integration, product integration. So yes, if I had a top tip for anybody, it would be to make yourself, I'm not going to call it a checklist, but just a list of the most important things. Make sure you have those in place. Now, the other benefit to just focusing on the important stuff was that it helped to keep a cap on the overwhelm. And I have found as a result, now that I've been using it for a little while, I'm getting quicker at finding things and quicker at making amendments. So tweaking it and making it a little bit better each time is getting slowly easier. So I'm very relieved that I decided to just focus on the bare bones of the website, because it just helped keep that overwhelm in check. Because there's a lot to do, and I think I found a pattern over time that 2 or 3 hours worth of work, and that was it. That's all I could manage. After that, my brain started to become quite soupy. So in general, that was one of the best things that I did, was to just focus on the most important things first, and then to add the cool but the non-essential things later. With an exception, and this brings me nicely to my third takeaway from the whole process. The one thing that you cannot just dismiss and do later is actually one of the foundation blocks, I think, and that's the SEO. Getting a certain amount of it done and dusted and in place before you hit publish. I mean, it's not the end of the world if you do forget something and you do have to come back and make it better. And I think I've done okay. I'm definitely no SEO whiz, but it's okay. There are some bits that were important to get right. I say right because I think I've done it right, but I don't want to lay claim to that in case I haven't. But I did get the bare basics done with regards to SEO, and I can improve on it by adding new pages in the future and making sure that that SEO is tight. And I have to keep reminding myself that my website is in the baby stages. It's not as bad to change things right now as it would be if it had been established and indexed and what have you. The longer it's up for, I'm guessing the worse it is to get tweaky with it. I would say just try and get it as good as you can before. What's that phrase? Prevention is better than cure? That. But I also know that I sometimes hate doing SEO, so I'll take what I can get. I mean, as you can probably tell, I've only had my website for about a week now, and already I have learned so much. It's a lot. I will be sharing insights and new information as I learn it, as I go on, so do stick around if that sounds like your cup of tea. I'm also thinking about, you know how I used to do the Etsy revenue roundup videos? I was wondering if maybe a sort of comparison style video thing might be helpful, sort of like, this is how many visits I got on Etsy this month compared to Shopify, how many orders compared to Shopify, that kind of thing. I don't know if I want to do that as a monthly series though, in the same way that I did the Etsy one. I'll think about that. But let me know if that would be of interest to you in any way, shape or form. That could be something for us to play with in the future. And in the meantime, if you are stuck in the weeds at the moment, setting up your own Shopify site or something on Wix or Squarespace or whatever, I feel you. Hang in there. It is worth it, I promise. Until the next video, ta-ra.